Yeah, perfect. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I hope you have seen the part one, in which we have discussed the section A part of the paper. Now we'll proceed with the section B. So here are the answers. Starting from question 3, we have first is interface. And before I would proceed, I would like to say that you can pause the video if you want to read the answers in detail. Otherwise, we'll proceed in at the same rate. Yeah, you may pause the video for reading. And then the second part is depth perception, stereotypic vision, to locate the precise something. Any of the point you have written, it will be accepted. Now the thing is, the question was of 2 marks, so you had to write 2 points. But since both the points would mean the same, no, so that is why if you have written 1 point but split that into 2 points, that would be considered. Yeah. Then the third point, you had to mention the number, not the number of pairs. But if you have written pairs in brackets, that's okay, but they will only see the number. You have written 44, that would be correct. If you have written only 22 pairs, that would be wrong, because they have asked the specific number. So you had to mention the number, that is autosomes 44 and allosomes 2. Yeah, and the description part that is given, you could have written that to maximize the presentation part, but if you have written the precise answers, that is definitely correct. Yeah. Then the fourth part was transpiration. Yeah, if you have written only transpiration and explained, underline the word transpiration, the keyword here, then you will get full marks in the A part. Then B was temperature, and you could have explained that also. I hope you have underlined the keywords in your paper, right? They'll see only that. Then the fifth part is, okay, so you had to draw the diagram in this prophase. So here are the components that you needed to include in your labeling, your diagram. You can pause to read. We'll proceed with the next. Question 4, right? Yeah, question 4 is, the scientific name of modern man is Homo sapiens. Now, you have read in class 9 that whenever you write a scientific name, either write in italics or you have to underline each word separately. If you have underlined the whole word, then there would be loss of marks. Yeah, they are very specific about this, so I'm quite sorry if you have not done that. And some people, they also think that in the scientific name of modern man, sapiens word, it comes 2 times. Now you could have written that 2 times, but you have to underline only one word. Yeah, so, and you have to underline each word separately. So yeah, they're very specific about this. Then the second part is cerebrum, outer portion. They had asked the position of the white matter and the gray matter, it seems. Yeah, so you can read that. It's the opposite in both the cases. Then part 3, Charles Darwin proposed natural selection theory, and peppered moth or Biston betularia. Yeah, you could have written any one, but if you had written the scientific name, then that would be more perfect. Then the fourth part, plasmolysis and deplasmolysis. So you had to include any 2 of the points. So here you can read this: flaccid, turgid, exosmosis, endosmosis, shrinkage and return. Yeah. Then the fifth one was the case study one, prostate gland. Location you had to write. Now you don't have to think that whatever is given here you had to write exactly that. Whatever was given in your book, whatever you had memorized, that is fine. But you must have included the words urinary bladder, surrounding the urethra, close to its opening. Yeah, you could have written any of that, but you need to include the keywords and underline them to make the presentation better. Yeah. Now the B part, to neutralize the acid in the vagina. Yeah. Then the C part is urethral sphincter, the circular muscle, and you could have explained that it relaxes only at the time of an impulse from the brain or the autonomous nervous system, whatever. Question 5. Question 5, you had to explain in the first part the advantage of RBCs being enucleated. So you could have written any of the point, but the main point is that it makes them biconcave, so they increase their surface area volume ratio, and they're absorbing oxygen more efficiently, and the space in between is increased. Any one point. Then the second part, you had to arrange in logical sequence here the food chain. Here you can see, and you have to be specific about this, no interchanging of the positions, and the arrow has to be in the same direction. If you have written the arrow, you have made the arrow in the opposite direction, then the marks will be deducted. Like in 8th standard you have done food chain, so you must remember that whenever we draw a food chain, the arrow is pointing towards the east. If you have drawn in the opposite direction, marks will be deducted. Yeah, they are specific about this. Then the third part, case study 1, you had to explain the function of placenta, diffusion part, diffusion of substances in and out. Yeah, and umbilical cord joins placenta and fetus. Then the fourth part, any 2 secondary sexual characteristics. That is quite a relatable question that I hope all of you have done correctly. Then the fifth one is a case study 1. The A part, here it's in presbyopia. Now presbyopia is a kind of long-sightedness or hyperopia. So you had to write, like you had to specifically write presbyopia, but if you have written both, they will accept it. Like if you have written presbyopia and in brackets hyperopia or vice versa, they will accept it, because presbyopia is a kind of long-sightedness. If you have written both, you will get marks. If you have written presbyopia, you will get marks. But if you have written only hyperopia or hypermetropia, then marks will be deducted. You had to mention either both or only presbyopia. I hope I'm clear at this. The B part, convex lens, converging lens, yeah, power plus. Then C part, behind the retina, beyond the retina, any. Then the question 6, population density, you have to write the definition. I hope you have written number of persons per kilometer square in a given time. In a given time and per kilometer square are the keywords, you have to underline that. Then the second part was adrenal virilism. You had to write, now here it's written, you see, I'll zoom it. Here it's written adrenal androgens. Now that is not the only answer that is acceptable. If you have written sex corticoids, if you have written cortisone, adrenal cortex, anything, but you have mentioned the adrenal cortex, you will get marks. Don't worry about that if you have written. Then the B part is development of male secondary sexual characteristics. Any you could write, beard, mustache, deepening of voice, etc. Then the third part, cytokinesis. Now this was a pretty specific question here. You had to differentiate between mitosis in animal and plant cell, but you had to tell the differences on the basis of cytokinesis. So you had to write the points, cleavage furrow formation and cell plate formation, and it is centripetal, that is outside to inside, and centrifugal, center to periphery. Yeah, if you have explained that, that's fine, that they also accept that. But yeah, you had to include these 2 points in this. Coming on to the fourth part, the destarching one. A part was destarching and B part is to remove chlorophyll or to decolorize. The leaf turns pale white. Yeah, and that is why it shows brown coloration when treated with iodine solution. And yeah, it is boiled in methylated alcohol, spirit, whatever you could have written. But loss of chlorophyll is the keyword here. Fifth part, It was the vertical section of spinal cord. Now here is it written TS, that is transfer section, or you could have written vertical section also, equally acceptable, of the spinal cord. And yeah, you had to draw the diagram, copy. I mean, it was made quite easy. You had to just copy and label. Gray matter is in the center and white matter at the periphery. You could have easily done that. Now, question 7, the overall chemical equation for photosynthesis. Here it is. And if you have done the balancing wrong, then the marks would be deducted. Yeah, balancing should be correct. 6 की जगह अगर 12 लिखा है, marks will be deducted. I hope you have done that correct. Now the second part, abbreviations, full forms you have to write. I hope you have done this correctly. Everyone knows the full forms. Then the third part, synapse. Synapse, you have to write the definition as it is. And the neurotransmitter was acetylcholine. Now here also written dopamine or noradrenaline, but these would not be given priority because in your book, the Selena concise book, biology, it is mentioned only acetylcholine, so you have to write only that. If you have written along with the others, then it's acceptable, but if you've written only that, then that would not be acceptable. Only acetylcholine you have to write, or you could mention. Then the fourth part is Leydig cells or interstitial cells. You have to write the function. They produce testosterone, and seminiferous tubules, they produce sperm by spermatogenesis. Then the fifth one was quite a general question upon urban crisis, the greenery, that was a very general question all of you could have written. So I guess I don't have to read that because everyone knows. Or if you want to read, you can pause the video here and read it. We'll proceed on to the next. Now question 8, the last question of section B. First part is turgor pressure. Pressure exerted by the cell contents of the cell wall. If you have written cell pressure, that would not be accepted. Any other thing you have written, that would not be accepted. Only turgor pressure. The second part, fluid between meninges, it's CSF, cerebrospinal fluid, and the function you had to write. Shock absorber, protects from physical damage in mechanical shocks, cushioning effect, and removes waste from nervous tissue. And you had to write relating to the spinal cord. So yeah, brain's point would not be mentioned in here. Then the third part, turgid plant cell, diagram labeling guide. Okay, so yeah, you had to, here also the diagram was given in the question paper. You had to just copy and label the vacuole and the plasma membrane. That's it. That was also quite easy. Then fourth, biodegradable waste, you had been given a list. You had to pick up 2. Decaying fruits and newspapers, that was quite easy. Then fifth one, the case study one, the collective term for structures in the internal ear. Now the question mentions that the tympanic membrane or the eardrum membrane of the person remains intact, means the parts of the internal ear beyond that would be affected. And the answer is membranous labyrinth. But membranous labyrinth, it implies the complete internal ear. If you have written ear ossicles, that could also be accepted, but well, it's not quite confirmed yet, I guess, because because the internal ear, it also consists of oval window, round window, the the semicircular canals, vestibules, and all. So I guess membranous labyrinth would be the answer. Yeah, you had to write this only. Then the B part, organ of corti, nothing else. Then the C part, noise pollution. Yeah. You had to write only one, I guess. Only one type was asked. Okay, so with this, we have discussed the entire section B of the biology science paper 3 as well. And I hope you have done your paper well or according to this answer key. And I would like to say that you should prepare for the next exam as well, and you will surely get a result with flying colors if you work hard. That's it for today. Thanks for watching.